23. Verse 6. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We see that the Psalm 23 life is a life of assurance and a life of anticipation, and we see both of those, of course, in this verse, the last verse of the Psalm. Again, assurance must have a basis. It must have a foundation. And everything said up to verse 6 is the foundation of that assurance, is the foundation of that anticipation. And it all centers around the Lord is, and He is my shepherd. So the foundation of assurance is who and what the Lord is. That's our foundation. Our foundation is God's provision of spiritual refreshment, as we see here in this 23rd Psalm. The restoration, everything that's said in this Psalm, again, is the foundation of a life of assurance. So tonight we want to move on to a life of blessed anticipation. But this psalm tells us this last phrase, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The whole psalm speaks of the Lord's work. Everything in it is what He does for us. There's nothing in it about us doing for Him. It's all about Him doing for us. And then we come to, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What that means is the Lord completes His work. The Lord finishes His work. You don't have to finish it. I don't have to finish it. The Lord finishes His work. So we have this last phrase, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That word "and," very important. Again, a conjunction. It's used here to connect two clauses. And here it's the second clause happens after the first. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. That's a summation of the entire psalm. And then we have "and." And that also suggests a progressive change. Everything is progressing. And for the child of God, everything is moving toward, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So it conveys the idea, the word "and," of course, conveys the idea of in addition to. So, in addition to everything that is written in the 23rd Psalm, in addition to that, so there's more. You read the 23rd Psalm and you're blessed, but there's more. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop with, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So there's more. And that's always so. That's always so for the child of God. There's more. No matter how much we have spiritually in this life, there's more. There's always more. That's why we can't be satisfied with our spiritual condition. There's always more. Always. So our life as a child of God, the Psalm 23 life, is summed up in the first clause. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. That's a summation of everything before that. And we can look back on our days past and we can see the goodness and mercy of God. Again, in this psalm, in this verse, verse 6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. That is the activity of God's goodness. That is the activity of God's mercy. And we can look back on all of our past days and see the activity of God's goodness, see the activity of God's mercy. It has marked every day of our life. However many days you have lived, God's goodness and mercy has marked every single day of our lives. And if we look back, we can see that. Well, at the same time, the psalmist, he looks forward. We can look forward to however many days we have, and we can say, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. It always has. God doesn't change, and its goodness and mercy isn't dependent upon me, so we can look into the future with this assurance, goodness and mercy shall follow me. So again, as we said last week, these are the words of someone who is not fearful of the future. He's not fearful of the future, nor should we be. We should not be fearful of the future. We can be concerned, but be careful, because concern crosses that line very easily into fear. And we shouldn't fear. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. So we have a wonderful life. The Psalm 20, everything in Psalm 23. What a wonderful life it is. God's goodness and mercy all the days of my life. But as marvelous as that is, as wonderful as that is, doesn't end there. It gets better. It even gets better. God's goodness and mercy tracks me, if you will, follows me, tracks me all the days of my life. And following that, we have and. In other words, there's more. There's more. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So, in the larger context, this goes back to the Lord is. The Lord is. And He is my shepherd. This is followed by the activities of the Lord as our shepherd. He makes me to lie down. He leadeth me. He restoreth. He leadeth me again. Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table for me. Thou anointest my head. He's doing everything. He's doing it all. That's His goodness and mercy. So therefore, David gets to the end, and he sums it up by saying, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And you could put a period there, and it would be wonderful. But there's not a period there. There's that and. In other words, again, there's more. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So all through the psalm, the Lord is portrayed as one who has a personal interest in His own. Again, David speaks of himself. Me. The Lord has a personal interest in each one of us as individuals. He has an interest in us collectively, but He has an interest in us individually. He is portrayed in the psalm as one who instructs and leads His people. One who is patient. A shepherd is patient. One who is forbearing. One who is a burden bearer. He is portrayed in the psalm as one who is edifying, as one who is loyal, as one who is loving to each and every one of His sheep. And as such, He wisely and skillfully and in a timely manner ministers to His own. It is the Lord acting as our shepherd in life, all through our life, all the days. And then I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. How blessed. How blessed we are. Again, it is a declaration that God completes His work. He completes His work. This is, again, spoken with absolute certainty. I will dwell in the house of the Lord. Absolute certainty. It's spoken of in a tone of anticipation. And again, it has its foundation who the Lord is. So, what is it to live life in this anticipation? Leading into this statement, I will dwell in the house of the Lord. Everything in the song deals with earthly life. All the days, and that's summed up in all the days of my life. All the days of my life. But in this last statement, David has moved from days to forever. So there's shift. He's no longer talking about all his days. Now he's talking about forever. So he has moved from time to eternity. He has moved from the temporary to the permanent. He has removed from now to then. And whether David is speaking about time or eternity, it involves him and the Lord. And you see that all through the psalm. Again, he's talking about time up until the last statement of verse 6. Everything is about earthly life. And everything he mentions is about him and the Lord. Him and the Lord. That should describe our earthly life. Me and the Lord. Me and the Lord. But then he moves to eternity, and it's still him and the Lord. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So whether it's time or eternity, it's him, it's the Lord. And he speaks in a tone of certainty. He speaks in a tone of anticipation. So again, consider earthly life. It is lived in mortal, decaying bodies of flesh. It's the only way you can live in this earthly life. And these bodies are subject to difficulties, are subject to trials, to sorrows, to temptations, to afflictions, to sickness, to disease, and eventually death. Our earthly lives are always subject to adversity and strife and struggles and battles and temptations. Earthly lives are surrounded by filthiness, by defilement, by wickedness, by ungodliness, by abomination and blasphemy and heresy, and by that which is offensive to the God-fearing. Everywhere we turn in our earthly lives, there is enmity and there is rebellion against God. Comes in many shapes, comes in many forms, But everywhere you turn, it is there. And in this world, in this life, we must contend with the workings and the temptations and the wiles and the traps and the darts and the deceptions of Satan and a world that is duped by him. So earthly life is not easy. Earthly life is lived in a world that is a very place of strife. It is a place of storm. It is a place of upheaval. It is a place of troubles and threats. These things should not surprise us. It is a place where there's fear and there's anxiety and there's disturbances of all kinds and interruptions of all kinds. All our spiritual lives, all our spiritual activities are imperfect and incomplete. Everything about earthly life is imperfect. Everything. I don't care what it is. Everything about earthly life is imperfect. Every time we worship, it's imperfect. Every time we pray, it's imperfect. Every time we preach, every time we do anything, it's imperfect. And it's incomplete. This is earthly life. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be. But in spite of all of that, our lives do not have to be like the rest of the world. We do not, as a child of God, we do not have to wander in spiritual endless circles. As a child of God, we do not have to live our lives trapped in spiritual failure. Someone failed years ago. I've got news for you. You failed today too. And they just can't get past that. You don't have to live your life trapped in failure. Many do. But again, you don't have to do that. The child of God does not have to live in bondage. The child of God does not have to live in defeat. The child of God does not have to live under the dominion of an enemy power. They do not have to live their life frustrated and discouraged and confused and restless and unsettled and hopeless and joyless and basically spiritually numb. God's people do not have to live that way. Ours is the life described in Psalm 23. Or it should be. It should be what is portrayed in this 23rd Psalm. So the child of God must not allow earthly life to dampen. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. Don't let earthly life, don't let the cares of life dampen that. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Don't let earthly life dampen eternity. So we have this blessed privilege of living. It is a privilege. We are saved. God leaves us here. And we have the privilege to live life. To live life. To live the life that God has called us to live. As children of God, we are justified by the grace of God. We have passed from life unto death. We have the forgiveness of sins. We have been reconciled to God. We have been redeemed through the blood of Jesus Christ, delivered from the curse of the law, delivered from eternal death, delivered from the power of darkness. We have been made joint heirs with Jesus Christ. We have peace with God. And God is our strength. And God is our helper. And we are kept by the power of God. Certainly, that ought to show in our lives. Certainly, that ought to make a difference in the way we live. Certainly, we must have a higher plane of living than those who are not saved. We must have a higher plane of spiritual living. We must have a different priority. We must have a different emphasis and a different focal point. And that's so, or should be, of the child of God. This life that is before the child of God, that is our privilege to live, again is portrayed in this 23rd Psalm. It is a life of personally experiencing the Lord. Read the 23rd Psalm. Read it over and over and over and over again. And what is being described is a personal experience with the Lord. A personal experience with the Lord as our shepherd. It is a life of close fellowship with the Lord. It is a life of walking and enjoying His presence. This is what is being described in this 23rd Psalm. It is a life of daily communion with Him. A life of personal relationship with God. A life of peace and assurance and spiritual growth. How can you be made to lie down in green pastures, led beside the still waters, led in paths of righteousness, and not grow? That's a life of growth. It's a life of joy. Again, this should be our life. Psalm 23 isn't just poetry. It's not just beautiful writing. It is. But it's our life. It should be our life. Again, people quote the 23rd Psalm. They have no idea of what they're quoting. It just sounds beautiful to them. How sad. It is a life of enjoying God's best. That's what we have in this earthly life. Enjoying God's best. The spiritual treasures that God gives us. It's a spiritually abundant life. It is a spiritually flourishing life. It's a life of enjoying the Lord as our shepherd through life. There aren't many of God's people that can make a compelling argument because of the life they live that they enjoy the Lord. They may enjoy truths about the Lord. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about enjoying the Lord. You can enjoy truths about the Lord. You can enjoy preaching. You can enjoy church without enjoying the Lord. And this Psalm 23 life, as you read the Psalm, you can't help but see that David is enjoying the Lord. He's enjoying the Lord. Not just what the Lord does for him, but he's enjoying the Lord. It is a journey with Him. It's a journey with Him. That's what life on this earth is. It's a journey. We're journeying through all the days of our life to the house of the Lord forever. But it's a journey. It's not a journey by ourselves. It's a journey with Him, who is mighty God, who is the Lord of all, who is the King of kings, the creator and sustainer of all things, the possessor of all power in heaven and earth. It is a journey with Him. You can't get better than that. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In addition to journeying through this world with Him, I'm going to spend forever with Him. So it's a journey. It's a journey with Him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or think. It is a journey with the one who walked this earth, and sickness and disease fled at His command. And every day, all the days of my life, I have the privilege of journeying through this life with Him. It is a journey with Him who walked this earth, and the demons and death were subject to Him. And we can just journey through life with Him. It is a journey with the one that the enemies of God could not stop. They tried. They tried to take up stones to stone Him on several occasions, but they couldn't do it. They couldn't stop Him. Death couldn't stop Him. The grave couldn't stop Him. And our life is a journey with Him. He excels everything in this life. Yes, life can be hard, but we journey with the one who excels everything and goes beyond everything and is more immense. Whatever you want to put in the way, He's more. So it's a journey with Him who is our salvation. It is the privilege of the child of God to live in the awareness of the shepherd's love. How many live oblivious to the Lord's love? But it is our privilege to live in the acknowledgement of His strength, His kindness, His presence. And all of those things enable us. Enable us to press on. And gives us assurance and conviction. Again, everything in earthly life is imperfect. It's all incomplete. But the life that is our privilege and opportunity to live is basically a taste of heaven upon earth. Just a taste. Very small taste. And David, summarizing his life upon earth, says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. So we have the now, and we have anticipation of eternity. David, fully aware of the blessedness of his earthly life, shifts his thoughts to the blessedness of eternity. And I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He is living the blessed life upon earth, but his mind is in heaven as well. He's heavenly minded. Paul serves as an example. Notice in 1 Corinthians 13. 1 Corinthians 13, verse 12. Two important words. Well, they're all important, but two we want to notice, and they're repeated. For now, we see through a glass darkly. That is, we don't see completely. But then, but then, face to face. Now, there it is again. I know in part. And that's true about everything we know. We only know in part. We only know a part of it. But then, so there it is again. Now, then, shall I know even as also I am known. Now, then. It is for now, but then. but then. He expresses the same, notice in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16 through 18. For which cause, redounding to the glory of God, we faint not, but though our outward man perish, and that's true of all of us, the outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we look not at the things which are seen, that's the now, but at the things which are not seen, that's the forever. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. It is Colossians 3, verses 1 and 2. We are to set our affections on things above, not on things below. In this earthly life, we must not forget the blessedness that lies ahead. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We must not forget that. We must not lose sight of that. We cannot let anything in life dampen that, cloud our view of that. And at the same time, we cannot be so focused upon heaven that we miss the wonderful and blessed life that is right before us now. God has given us a life to live. And then after we live that life, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So there has to be a balance. We can't let earthly life dampen eternity, our view of eternity, cause us to forget eternity. And we can't be so caught up in eternity that we forget or we don't pay attention to the life that God has put right before us to live. So, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Gain is coming. Better is coming. It's coming. It's coming for every child of God. But, in the meantime, there is an amazing life before us to be lived. In this life, 1 Peter 2:11, we are strangers. You must remember this. We are foreigners away from home. We are foreigners away from home. This world is not our home. Most of God's people do not realize that. They believe in eternity, but they act like they're going to be here forever. And they're all concerned about here, but this world is not our home. We are foreigners. We are strangers, and it goes on to say we are pilgrims. A pilgrim is one who journeys in a foreign land. We are foreigners. This is not where our citizenship is. Philippians 3:20, our citizenship is in heaven. That's where our citizenship is. And we are just passing through. We're foreigners passing through, heading for, don't forget where we're headed, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That's where we're headed. That's our destination. We're to have our eyes upon that. But we have a life to live as we pass through. So because this world is not our home, because we are citizens of heaven, our thinking, our views, our attitudes, our emotions, and our lives are to align with the heavenly. And we are not to be entangled in this life. Because this isn't our final home. And God's people need to quit acting like it is. Because it isn't. We're foreigners in this land. So how blessed it is to be able to say with David, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And there's anticipation. There's assurance in that clause, but there's also anticipation for the future days. And then you have and. In addition to that, I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We're blessed as children of God. And we are blessed to be able to live a life upon this earth. But our life should align with Psalm 23. That's where our life should align. It should describe our life. As we read the 23rd Psalm, we should be able to say, yeah, I know that. Maketh me lie down in green pastures. Yeah, I know all about that. Leadeth me beside the still waters. Yeah, I know all about that. It should be our life. How blessed we are to be able to live such a life. And it only gets better. It only gets better for the child of God. No need to live in gloom. No need to live in despair. Because it only gets better for the child of God. Brother Ben, if you'll come and lead us.